Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and Commander, do press the like button to register your presence. And for those commanders, the new commanders that have joined the DPA army, do register in the by pressing the subscribe button to register your name into the system. And also, so this is the SITREP, the situation report for the day of 1120 for the 19th of March. So we have quite a number of significant things happening. So we'll go through from the Kursk front first. Over at the Kursk front, we have geolocation. So this we have geolocation of give me a second. So just checking though in case I make any mistakes. So geolocation of Russian forces in the west of Rubetskina and Molovoy confirmed the Russian claims, and also some slightly further advance from Molovoy for the Russian forces. So all these claims by the Russian side is now confirmed by the geolocation. The Russians indeed have advanced in this sector. Fighting continues to be reported at Gogolevka as well as Oleshnya, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So this situation here did not change a lot, except some slight tactical change around the west of Molovoy. Over in the southern flank of the Kursk front, fighting continued to be reported at Gornau as well as Goevo. So that's about it from this sector of the Kursk front. As you will have known from previous report, the Kursk front has expanded. The Ukrainian forces have not given up the attempt to break into the Belgorod region. Fighting currently is still being reported at Demidovka as well as Prelese. And according to the Russian mapping, the Ukrainians did have some slight edge, not edge, but slight buffer that they have captured. Lipsy has been seemingly taken just at the border, and then they have taken some of the forests along the border, all along these regions here. Off the north of Prokody, on the west of Grafovka. The Russians allegedly, according to their reports, have attacked Ukrainian forces at Marine. So it could be shelling, but it could be an attack. We're not entirely sure. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces on the west of Prelese was confirmed, confirming the Ukrainians are in this area here. The Russians are also shelling Ukrainian rear position at Putrishevka as well as Uroidi. So Ukrainians most likely have their rear HQ in these regions here, and they are getting shelled by the Russian forces. So tentatively, the Russians continue to hold the position at Demidovka, Grafovka, and Prelese is not known to be captured by the Ukrainian forces yet. So fighting is still ongoing. For the pro-Russian guys, the pro-Russian commanders in the room, so do note, don't be too happy about this, because in the Kursk front, the beginning also looks something like this, where the Ukrainians seem to have some trouble in the beginning, and then they still manage to break through eventually. So it really depends on whether the Russians will send in reinforcement to this sector to cover up. As the Ukrainian forces start to ramp up their attack more and more, they will break through if the Russians do not reinforce. So that's the situation here in the south of Kursk front, in the Belgorod region. So this is just next to the Kursk region. This is the border here. This is Kursk, and this is Belgorod. So this is the two oblasts in Russia with the two regions. So they're just next door. This is basically just south of the Kursk front. So we'll just put this as part of the Kursk front for now. So we're moving on to the Kharkiv front. And so a reminder again for those commanders in the room, if you have not registered your name, you have not joined the DPM, do subscribe. You need to sign up. If not, no, you'll get court-martial. So no, this is not a joke. We'll send you to the detention barracks. So no, this is not a joke. No, and the other commanders that's already in the DPA army, please press the like button to register your name. So over in the Voschansk, in the Kharkiv front, there's fighting only reported at Voschansk. In this area here, the report is coming from from the Ukrainian side only. So there is nothing changed over in the Kharkiv front. General situation is very calm in this sector. We move on to over in the Dvorichna front. At the Dvorichna, we have a massive situation happening in the northern flank of the Dvorichna front. Russian forces have managed to create a breakthrough. They have managed to create a bridgehead in the northeast of Krasny Pershi, managing to cross the river. According to Ukrainian mapping, the Russians have also control all along the eastern bank of the Oskil River. So we have the mapping updated to show exactly where the Russians have controlled the region according to the Ukrainian mapping. Fighting is now mentioned at Kayamka as well as Krasny Pershi. So this is a major development over in the northern flank of the Dvorichna front. So something to take note about in your mission ahead. Over in the southern flank of the Dvorichna front, we have fighting reported at Dvorichna according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Other than that, we have geolocation of Russian forces confirming the extent of the Russian presence. This area here south of Zapatne, so this is Zapatne. This geolocation versus the previous Ukrainian geolocation confirms that the border is indeed around here, between the two sides. So this is where the front line actually is. So very useful geolocation. We move on over to the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, we only have one report over at Petropavlivka according to the Ukrainians. Nothing particularly special about the front. Very quiet as well, like the Kharkiv front. We move on to the Borova front. Borova front also rather quiet. Fighting is reported at Zarizobe as well as Zeleny High. Otherwise, it's still pretty quiet. Nothing changing around here. Strategically remains the same. And gentlemen, we now go into the Liman front. The northern flank of the Liman front, fighting is reported at Druzilivivka, Novomihailivka, Nove, as well as Zelena Dolena. Nothing particularly stands out to me in this sector. We move on to the rest of the Liman front. We have fighting only reported at Yampolivka, where the Ukrainians continue to manage to hold back the Russians from conquering the small little town. We move into the Siversk front. This is the Siversk front. The main fighting here is still in the Okanyamsky region. This is still the main place of fighting, as per reported by both Russian and Ukrainian side. The Russians, of course, continue to talk about Siversk in a cryptic way that we do not necessarily know where they are attacking Siversk from, or is it just simply shelling. So we will continue to monitor and wait for more clarification of the front line. Hopefully in the near future, we will get it. We move into the Bakhmut front. Northern flank of the Bakhmut front, we have some interesting developments. Mention of Minkivka was noted. We haven't seen Minkivka mentioned since the 5th of March, which is my birthday. And the previous time is 27. So this is not a very not a place that is very mentioned quite often nowadays. So this is very it's an abnormal thing. And of course, we still have the fighting reported at Novomakove. So happy birthday to the commanders that is having birthday today. Happy birthday to you today. But unfortunately, you still have to work by watching DPA's reports. So fighting is reported at Novomakove. So there is some things developing around here, and it's important to note the Russians have already announced the capture of Orikovo-Vasilivka previously, which means the front line might actually look something like this. We do not know. So it could be a potential attack like this, rather than what we are drawn in the raid. So something to take note of. We move on further south. At the central flank of Battle of Chasivia continues. Geolocation of Russian forces continues to be noted, meaning our front line pretty much is still very accurate. There's no change to our front line despite the geolocation basically is very near to the border, the front line where we have drawn, but pretty much is where the Russians are supposed to be. So Battle of Chasivia continue, nothing particularly new about this sector. Over in the southern flank, we have the reports, we have mention of Alexandro Shetine. According to the Ukrainians, probably an attack coming from this direction, possibly. Shelling is reported at Ivanopilia according to the Russian Defense Ministry in the southeast of Konstantinivka. And we move into the Toretsk front. This is the Toretsk front. we cut it into half. This is the Torak sector and this is the New York sector. So in the Torak sector, we have the fighting reporter at Druzhba, Dilievka, Krimsky, as well as Torak. Of particular importance is the development at Druzhba. According to the Russian mapping, the pro-Russian source Ryba have noted that the Russian forces have advanced north of Druzhba. This advance is particularly interesting because we have previous developments east of this position, as well on the western part we have the advancement over in the north of Krimsky. So this means that there is a three-pronged attack currently developing by the Russian side, and this could potentially be from Krimsky to Dilievka. There's a possibility. Dilievka is mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry themselves, whereas they also mentioned about Krimsky. So how does this work? I do not know, but so let's see how this develops. Who knows? Maybe this the reason is because this is also Krimsky, and the Russians are attacking, still fighting in the region of Krimsky. So let's see how this continues to develop. Dilievka is often mentioned. You can see the number of days around here, but it always never makes sense how the Russians attack near there. That's all for the Torak front. Now we go to the Pokrov front. So this is the Pokrov, and this is the Pokrov front. We have the northern flank, Minokhrad sector, Pokrov sector, and a southern sector. So this is north. This is north, Minokhrad sector, Pokrov sector, as well as the southern flank. So in the northern flank, we have the fighting reporter at Zelene Pole, Tarasivka, as well as Yelizavdivka. The Battle of Tarasivka continues, and there is still the Russians trying to push out of Zelene Pole. So far, the front line is pretty static, nothing particularly new about in this sector. Over in the Minokhrad sector. So this Minokhrad, this is the front line, the namesake for this sector of the front line. Russians are attacking Pokrov, Shevchenko, Novoyukrenka, Lisivka, as well as Promin. This front line here generally is a static front line. Usually nothing changed because strategically the Russians have not reached the strategic posture to storm the two cities. This is not yet the time to do so. So not happy, very sad. They are crying, and but there is a frontline change is over at Shevchenko. At Shevchenko, Russian forces has been geolocated in the northern part of Shevchenko. In our mapping, we have mapped it in a very conservative way. So this only shows the Russians are conducting a northern attack around Shevchenko, whereas we preserve the Ukrainian positions in the regions where they were geolocated. So that's all for Shevchenko. Over in the Pokrov sector. At the Pokrov sector, we have the Russians attack at Vivrove, Udashny, Uspenivka, as well as towards the town of Serhievka. So this is in the direction. They are not at Serhievka. So strategically, nothing changed around this sector. The fact that Kotline is not mentioned in this report, is surprising to me. But let's see. Over in the southern flank, Russian forces attack Preobrazhenka, Zaporizhia, as well as Strypny. So that's all. It looks like the Russians still fails to consolidate this position after a while. So it just shows the strength of Ukrainian forces in this sector, able to continue to keep the Russians at bay, very successfully stabilizing the front line in this sector. And moving on to the Andriivka front. This is Andriivka. So at the Andriivka front, we have fighting reporter at Andriivka. Oleksievka is mentioned. We have fighting reporter at Barhate. Ukrainian forces is attacked at Rozliv. This is a TOS attack, thermobaric missiles. Basically, anyone here is now dead. Which means that the Russians have a TOS vehicle around within 10 kilometers range. So they could potentially fire from, let me show you. Oops. So TOS-1A have a 10-kilometer range. So they are basically firing within this region here. It is pretty decent range, and I remember reading that the updated version can fire 20 kilometers. So it could be potentially even further, but tentatively we're gonna assume it's still gonna be 10 kilometers because this is already pretty safe. Although they will be vulnerable to UAVs, FPV drones, but otherwise, yeah, they are operating. And another important thing to note is that if they are getting a TOS strike, that means the Russians could potentially be storming the town in the very, very near future. Also, the Ukrainian mapping have not changed. Give me a second. Yeah, because this is already geolocated, is a confirmed Russian capture. Yeah, because sometimes the mapping, this mapping app sometimes it doesn't work properly. So the Russians are already in this area here. They are within striking distance. The distance between the previous geolocation to the town is less than 1.5 kilometers. So a TOS strike makes sense, particularly if you look at the way where they strike basically the entry point from this position. So if the Ukrainian forces in this defensive grounds in the corner is all taken out, then the Russians can now storm the northeast of Rozhliv. So this makes sense. We will continue to monitor the situation. I will let you know, right? Let you guys know when the Battle of Rozhliv began. We are now into the Velika Novosilka front. At the Velika Novosilka front, we have the fighting reported over at Skutne, Veselé, shellings reported at Fitorivka, Privune, Novosilka, as well as Novopil. Strategically, nothing changed around this sector. Generally, the front line also very static, as the Ukrainians also similar to the situation at Pokrov are doing a very, very good job holding back the Russians. There is some slight frontline changes, with the Ukrainians claiming that they have control of the entire forest northwest of Dnipro and Echaya. But at the same time, they considered that the western part of Skutne, that field which is clearly no Ukrainian forces can be there, is under Russian control. So the Russians have yet to break into Veselé. It seems like this defense line here might be doing its job. So that's all from the Velika Novosilka front. We move on to the Zaporizhia front. So for those commanders, if you want to continue to support my work, you can join Patreon or YouTube membership, although I prefer Patreon, but Coffee also okay, or Boosty, where you can create some buffer for me to continue to do the reporting. For the paying members, there will be exclusive videos. We call it the classified report briefing or the secret briefings, which I will talk about stuff on geopolitics and some opinion stuff. It could be anything, and it will be in a totally different format you had never seen before. It's only exclusively for the ranking members of the DPA army. So you can join as a DPA sergeant, officer, or general. So of course, the higher rank you are, the more I will respect your rank. So anyway, thank you. So commanders, we go into the Zaporizhia front, and this is the Zaporizhia city. This is the Zaporizhia front. We break the front line into three sectors. This is the Huaypole sector. This is the Orikhiv sector, and this is Kayamsky sector. At the Kayamsky sector, the Russians continue their Zaporizhia operation with fighting reported at Shebaki, Stepove, as well as Lukove. So we have no reports about the fighting over in the Orikhiv part of the front line, where the Russians previously attacked Andriivka and Novodanilivka. So we don't have this over the past 24 hours. So that's the sector around here. And we move on to the Kherson front. At the Kherson front, we have mention of Dniprovsk, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. We marked it as an attack because the Russians have already reached very close to the bridge, so it is possible that it is an attack. Otherwise, we only note that the Russians have announced the shelling of Antonivka, Sadove, and Potentivka. So, which also shows that constantly there is Ukrainian forces gathering around this sector, because this area here is consistently getting shelled. It could be a possibility that the Russians are preparing the ground to soften the Ukrainian forces around here, and then they will storm across, like what happened in the Oskil side, and then create a bridgehead. But I personally think this is less likely, because the Dnipro River here is a lot more formidable. Even if I zoom out, you can see that even with this updated mapping, the river is still pretty thick. So it is not that easy to cross. Sending forces across the river might get them stranded and wiped out. So I don't think the Russians are going to take a big risk for now, until the Ukrainian forces' ability to fight is massively diminished. Otherwise, commanders, these are the reports, the latest update, the summary for the day of 19th of March, for the day of 1120. Thank you, gentlemen, for attending the briefing. I'll see you guys in the next update.